ladies and gentlemen. My name is Evelyn Palmer, and the topic of my presentation today is the literary period known as Realism. Instead of reading about medieval adventures or romantic stories, were people in the mid to late 1800s ready to read about commonplace, everyday events? This topic is useful that it gives a face to the many social, economic, and political changes that took place after the Civil War. And so these novels, in a way, provide a face to the ways these changes affected common people. I'm going to talk about three things today. First, I will talk about the characteristics of this literary period. Then I will talk about the historical context that provided the material for these authors. And then I will talk about the new type of hero figure that emerges as a result of these changes. So, what is the literary period known as Realism? Contrary to the romantic idealism of previous times, the realist approach to character and topic was the here and now. It was the everyday lives of ordinary people. This includes dialogue with a lot of dialect, and symbolism was kept at a minimum. In a way, you can describe realist novels as docudramas in which person and events reproduce the real world. Psychological advancements in the first half of the 18th century added a new dimension. This dimension included the workings of the inner mind. Instead of having novels that focused on moral perfection, the new understanding of the human mind produced characters that were on a spectrum, thus neither all good, neither all bad, more ambiguous, and thus a lot more realistic. The most well-known and famous authors of that time are Mark Twain, who wrote two famous novels, amongst many others, Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Stephen Crane was called the champion of the common man. One of his famous novels is Maggie, a Girl of the Streets, that tells the tragic story of a poor girl whose alcoholic and abusive parents utterly fail her. Horatio Alger Jr. talked about the adventures of impoverished children. My second topic today is the historical conditions of that time. The most important one is that the Emancipation Proclamation ended slavery. Now, this economic autonomy that now the free slaves experienced was more of a dream than a reality. The other important event was the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution changed American culture in many profound ways. It caused a migration from the country to the cities, which then resulted in many problems. Those include overcrowding. A new social class was created, which was the urban poor. It also created problems of discrimination, racism, and it also led to a breakdown to traditional values. Realist authors saw it as their job, or even more so as their moral duty, to speak the truth about these conditions. The third point I'm going to talk about is the new type of hero figure that emerges in realism. Now, the concern of all realist authors was in creating very complex characters. Now, while heroes up to that point were defined by their strength and great accomplishment, this new type of hero was realistically flawed, yet not afraid to right or wrong. One of these heroes is Huck in Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, written in 1884. Now, one of the events in the story is Huck helping Jim, a slave, escape. Huck sees the conditions in his society as good. He sees the laws as being just. Now, though he does help Jim escape, so by refusing his place in society and hell, by helping Jim, the slave, escape, no matter what the repercussions, he becomes a hero. Even more so since his acts are completely lost on the society that surrounds him. One of the famous quotes is, "All right then, I'll go to hell." In conclusion, I wanted to show with this presentation how literature can respond to historical events, to events that change societies, like it did in profound ways here with the literary period of realism. I covered 3 main points today. I talked about the main characteristics of American realism. I talked about the political, social, and economic changes that took place and provided the material for realist authors. And I talked about a new type of hero figure that emerged, who follows his instincts instead of following society's rules. Any questions? If not, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.